The house on Dead Hill, Madison County, Indiana, 1978. Among the hills where the old Highway 37 crosses abandoned railroad tracks stands a house. The locals call it the house on Dead Hill. No one knows exactly when it was built. All records have vanished, just like the first owners. Legend says that anyone who spends the night there either goes insane or disappears without a trace. That October, 3 college students from Bloomington, Michael, Jenna, and Tom, arrived at the house. Their course project focused on the psychogeography of fear, and they decided to spend a night in the infamous house to gather material. Local farmers, wrinkled old men with scratched faces and hollow eyes, warned them, "You won't be alone in that house at night. The owners come back, but they ain't people. Not anymore." Michael laughed, holding up his camera. "Perfect. This will make our film legendary." They arrived at the house just before sunset. Shattered windows, leaning walls, peeling paint like old skin. Inside, the air reeked of damp rot and something else, metallic. At first, everything went according to plan. They set up cameras and microphones. Jenna kept a diary, describing her feelings as the darkness grew thicker outside. At 9 p.m., Tom went to explore the basement and never came back. They called out for him, searched with flashlights. The basement was empty. But one of the cameras, aimed at a corner of the room, caught something. A hand appeared from the wall for just a second, along with claws instead of fingers. It grabbed Tom and pulled him into the darkness. The recording cut off right after his scream. Michael thought it was some cruel prank. Jenna panicked, tried to get out, but the door wouldn't open. The windows were boarded shut from the inside. They hadn't noticed it in daylight. And then the house began to whisper. At first, it was barely audible, like a breeze. "We are here. We see. We hunger." Then louder. The whisper came from outlets, air vents, even the floorboards. Michael tried to call the police, but his phone melted in his hand like wax. Jenna began hallucinating. She saw Tom standing in the corner, covered in blood, calling her to him. At midnight, the doors flew open, and they entered. Tall, deformed figures with black, empty eyes. Not ghosts, not living, something in between. Creatures that had once been human, but were twisted by fear and pain. They spoke only once. "You came, now stay." By morning, the house was empty. No cameras, no signs of struggle. Just 3 sets of barefoot footprints in the dust, as if those inside had vanished into the air. The locals said nothing. They knew. The house on Dead Hill never lets go. And every Halloween, when fog rolls across the hills, voices can be heard inside the house. The Whispering Walls, November 1993. Indiana, 15 years after the disappearance of the students, the house on Dead Hill drew attention again. Not from college kids this time, but from the Missing Persons Department. A federal agent, Sarah Lynch, was assigned to investigate a string of disappearances in Madison County. Children, teenagers, even adults had vanished within miles of the house. The latest was 12-year-old Amy Wells. Security camera footage from her bedroom showed the girl rising in the middle of the night, sleepwalking, or so it seemed. Barefoot, in her pajamas, she walked outside. Her direction was clear. The hills. Everyone knew where she was going. No one dared follow. But Sarah was different, tough, unshakable, and haunted by cracks inside her, left behind by the loss of her sister, who had vanished under mysterious circumstances back in 1979. Her sister's name was Jenna. Sarah didn't believe in ghosts. Not until that night. When she entered the house, the air thickened instantly, like a fog crawling under her skin. Light bulbs flickered, even though power had been shut off decades ago. On the second floor, she found a child doll lying in a perfect circle of ash. When she picked it up, the doll cried. Not a toy's sound. A real cry, like a living child. Sarah pulled her gun, heart pounding, when she heard a voice. Sarah, it was her sister's voice. She ran into the hallway and saw her. Jenna, aged, broken, eyes as lifeless as stone. "You came for me?" Jenna asked. "Then you'll stay too." Hands and faces began crawling out of the walls, distorted by pain. They screamed, not just in fear, but in something worse. Hope. Every cry was both a prayer and a curse. Sarah fled to the attic. Somehow, she knew the source was there. On the floor, a strange symbol was carved, old and foreign. Beneath it, a trapdoor. She descended. Below was a circular chamber, like a well. Claw marks covered the walls. In the center, A pool of black water, still as glass, without reflection. From it a figure rose, tall, pale. Its face was skinned, just pulsating flesh and veins. You are the last Lynch. We need only one thing, the name of the next. Give it, and you'll be free. Sarah trembled, but answered, all you'll get is fire. She tossed a lighter into the pool, but there was no water, only illusion. The floor ignited. The house groaned like a dying beast. Sarah escaped, burned and bleeding, clutching a half-melted video camera. The house burned to the ground. But a year later, it stood again, rebuilt, identical, and everyone who dares enter hears whispers from the walls. Sarah, you promised to return. One must stay. October 2023. Indiana, nearly 30 years had passed since Sarah Lynch set the house ablaze and vanished. No one knew whether she died or returned to the place from which no one comes back. But in October 2023, the house appeared again, exactly the same, as if time had never touched it. The cracked porch, windows filled with darkness, and the familiar whispers inside. This time, it was her son who came, Nick Lynch, a former soldier turned private investigator. Since childhood, he had heard stories about his mother, seen the one surviving video where a shadow rises behind her from the floor. Nick never fully believed it, until the voice began calling to him in his dreams. Nick, help me. He came alone. No cameras, no friends, just a flashlight, a shotgun, and Sarah's old tape recorder. At the entrance, he saw a sign that hadn't been there before. One enters. None leave. One must stay. Inside, the house was breathing. The walls were warm, like flesh. The floor shifted beneath his feet. The voices were quiet now, but watching. Nick followed the path his mother once took. The basement, empty. The attic held the same scorched symbol, but beneath it, there was a new opening that hadn't been on her recording. He descended into the heart of the house. It wasn't just a room. It was a dimension built from fear. Faces of the missing emerged from the walls. Jenna, Tom, Michael, even Sarah. But she was alive, chained to the floor by glowing bindings. Her eyes shone like she was more than human now, a guardian. You weren't supposed to come, she said. Now the house wants you to, but we have a chance. One. Sarah explained. The house was a living being. It fed on pain, fear, and names. Every person who entered gave it strength. But if one stayed of their own free will, offering themselves, the house would sleep forever. You need to leave, Nick. I'll stay. But Nick refused. You've given enough. It's my turn now. He unlocked her chains, and instantly the house screamed. The ceiling cracked. Shadows swarmed toward them. Nick grabbed her hand and whispered, tell them I didn't disappear. I chose. He shoved her toward the exit and stayed. Outside, Sarah collapsed on the ground. The house began to collapse, not burning, but fading, disintegrating like a mirage under sunlight. Where it once stood, there was only scorched earth and silence. Years passed. Sarah never returned to a normal life. But one ordinary day, she received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with one sentence. He sleeps, while I stay with him. N.